Hey everyone, balance changes just got announced. We got some nerfs, we got some buffs. I just want to give my thoughts on the nerfs and the buffs and tell you what I think of them and what I think how they will affect the meta. So the first one is Howlhound. It's going down to a 3 for lifesteal with Rush. This card probably still really strong, especially in decks that can buff it. I do feel this is probably a harder nerf for Death Knight than it is for Hunter builds, at least the Death Knight builds that ran Hallowhound, because they were having hard, usually didn't buff it as much. But that being said, this means that your Hallowhound is often going to clear and die. And this makes a big difference because now that means that you get one big heal. But that still does add a lot of longevity. It's still a strong card, but it just a less tempo in general. So I think I like this nerf. I was debating if they're going to go to a 2-6 or a 2-5. And I think this was a good choice. So definitely agree with this nerf. Next is Costume Stinger, another card. Costume Stinger, another card that was really strong. Down to a 1/1, seems reasonable. The 1 mana draw one, sometimes more. Just seems like a really appropriate nerf. I think it was a good one. The draw 1 for 1 situation tends to be the normal power level. So at a 2/1, a little too strong when secrets aren't bad cards. Bioluminescence going to 4 mana. This card I think is appropriately balanced without mana discounts, but because of the absurd mana discounts that you have with nature spells with stuff right now, having this 4 mana, it makes it harder for the shaman to do like double bioluminescence, stuff like that. So this is going to be really good for the warrior deck. We got a lot of things coming for the warrior deck that I posted the other day. But this means it's harder for them to do lots of damage, but I think this nerf alone is not enough to kill shaman. But it often means them, popping off a turn later. Makes it harder. So it makes it more exploitable. I did feel, what's hard about Shaman is when they, some hands, it just feels like there's really not enough exploitation. They're not punished enough for pressure. They're not put enough tough decisions, where I've had games where they just don't draw any cards and I can't kill them by turn 7 and then they just pop off and kill you with 1 discount, which can feel really rough. So I think this is a very reasonable nerf. But we'll see if the deck dies. I don't really think that the Bioluminescent Shaman should die, but if the power level of everything else is going down, I do think there's a risk for not nerfing it, but I don't think this is enough to kill the deck when you have so many discounts already going on. So next one is the first one I felt weird about. It's Thaddeus. Your odd cost 1, swaps this. Now your odd cost cards cost 4 less, swap less. So on one end, this can make low-cost cards cost 0, so it sometimes is an improvement, but overall, this kills Thaddeus Warlock, which I was kind of sad about. I was surprised on this. This is a nerf I didn't expect, especially because Thaddeus decks aren't very good. I'm not really sure why they did this. I didn't think these card decks were a problem. I think they sometimes just give it to, mana cheating bad. I think this, but it is a very polarizing card when it gets down, and maybe they want to get rid of that. So I was surprised on this. This is the first nerf I'm not really 100% for or against. I'm kind of just like, I don't know. But Thaddeus Warlock's dead, so that's kind of sad. So, but I do think Warlock got one really big buff that's going to matter. So next we got Down with the Ship. This is deal 3 damage, shuffle 2 plagues into the opponent's deck. I think that not only this is a pretty big buff, not only does it not have to kill things, but it can go face. And I think the going face actually is the bigger part. So the fact that it can go face and do things means you can, use it to finish somebody off. That matters a lot. So I think this is a pretty big buff. Will it put Plague Death Knight on the map? Probably not, but it's still a pretty big buff. And in theory, because it's weird rune combinations, I don't think it gets run. But in theory, this card's good enough that you could run a deck that really doesn't go all in on Plague. So I still sometimes think if you could find a build that isn't really all in on Plagues and uses kind of as a backup win condition, that could be good. But next we got Mythical Terror. This is going up to 410. Not really sure how I feel about this one, but the card wasn't seen play at 310. So moving up to 4, maybe reasonable. Next we got Lotus Blossom, going from a draw 1 5 armor to draw 2 to gain 10 armor. This seems reasonable when you compare it to Howling Blood. The Druid card that's now in Wild, that's been around for like 4 years, where it's draw a card, gain amount of cards equal to your hand. Now this card is kind of closer to equivalent power. I thought the card was just a little too weak before, so just this nerf buff definitely makes sense in Hearthstone in 23 to make it just similar to another powerful card. This is the Disciple of Amethyst on an Earthen. I mean, I don't really believe in Earthens, but certainly lowering the power of a cost of this. I still think this card looks really strong. If you can build the right deck around it, reviving a 3/4 attack minion, if you have, only certain kinds of minions, could be huge. And even if you low roll now, like the amount of stats this creates is insane. So this card might be busted, but is there a deck to be built around it? Possibly. But the overall power level of this card looks really strong. And then Astral Automaton swing the 1/2. That matters. So I felt like this deck was good in theory crafting and just didn't make the cut once you actually started playing it. But maybe it's good enough now. I don't know. 1/2, to 2/3 means you can value trade 2/2s. That matters on the early turns for spiraling. So next we've got Felstring Harp. I think this is a huge buff. Not only does it cost 1 less, but this allows you to play it on turn 1. So with the part of or on turn 3, the problem with it too, not only does it cost 2 mana, but it makes it awkward for your curve. Even cost cards are often bad in Warlock because you often are tapping, so they get a little awkward of like, do you play them? So an odd cost card, not only is it half the mana, so it's half the mana spent that before. This card looks really strong now. I mean, I thought it was strong at 2 mana, but I think this card has to see play in something. It's just too freaking efficient, right? 1 mana heal 12. That seems really good. Maybe even more. So, allows you to tap more, doesn't cost as much mana. So I want to try Warlock out. I'm excited to try some Warlock out just because of this card. And I think with everything, power level, everything down, Curse Warlock, Sargeras is a hell of a card. So I think Warlock was already on the edge of being a good deck. It did lose Thaddeus Warlock, but I kind of think Thaddeus Warlock is, all in one trick pony. I think something with Symphony of Sins, something with Sargeras, maybe Curses, maybe just control build. There's a lot of different ways that you could do Warlock right now. Next, we got the Warrior stuff. Warrior got a lot of stuff, and they're all cards in my Warrior deck. So we got Blade Storm down from 3 mana to 2 mana. I mean, this one, just efficiency matters. This is an interesting one where it's Stone Skin Armor. If your armor changes its turn, draw 2 cards. This allows you to do as a turn 4 play with hero power if you don't have anything else. It just gives you a little more flexibility, but it does lower the stats overall, which matters. So I'm not really sure how I feel about this one. I'm not even 100% sure it's an objective buff because it is less stats, but the 2 mana draw 2, develop a 2/2 when you do armor is really, really good as is. So I think just being able to curve fill makes it better, and it probably makes it on less awkward turns. This one is real big. Now it says after your hero attacks and kills a minion, gain 4 armor. Whenever your hero attacks, gain 4 armor. Change. So now there's 2 reasons why this is insane. One is you can just go face and gain armor, so it's like you can just do it. You don't have to like attack into big awkward minions. So a lot of times now you could just use your removal to clear the board and use this to gain 12 life. That's huge, so you can go face so much more. But they also say it works when you played Odin. So now if I attack with this after I played Odin, it's deal 7. Deal 7. So it's going to be so much easier to kill people now because this hammer always kind of sucked after Odin. This is a huge buff. I can't understand. I think people are underestimating where your hero attacks gain before armor is huge. Maybe get a buff on this with some weapons. Like this weapon just went way up. Just being able to go face with it and gain armor means you can just hit face and ignore board. That's huge. There used to be a more pure control tool. Now this is a go face tool. Big game changer. Big game changer. Next we got Trial by Fire. This card's already good at 7 mana, but it's marginal at 7. Really good at 7. Now it's really good. I think now you can play this on 6 and then go Yogg on 7. Real big buff. So that's going to matter. I mean, the one thing for my build, you spend less mana for your Naga Giant. So overall, Warrior, I'm really excited. I'm excited about this health nerf. Some of these other buffs I don't really care about much. I think these nerfs are going to just put appropriate low. I'm glad they didn't go too hard on Hunter. Hunter is a class that's very popular, very sort of beginner to intermediate friendly. I think those nerfs weren't too much. I think the decks that were in them will absolutely survive. But, you know, metas change, you know, but I don't see them being bad decks on the climb to legend at all, but you know, who knows, with the top 100 legend is very competitive. But I think for most of you, these nerfs will mostly be not that relevant. In that I think the buffs and also just sort of the slate meta incentives will actually be the bigger relevancy. So a lot of possibilities for new deck building ideas. I'm pretty excited about. I'm usually not a big fan of nerfs and buffs, but I think these were really good. And I usually don't say that. You guys, if you listen to me, I'm always crapping on nerfs, but I'm a fan of these nerfs and these buffs. So I'm looking forward to playing some more Hearthstone next week with the new stuff. So look to see you guys on the ladder. We'll be trying new stuff and see you guys around.